You're listening to the home of all things Lindenwood sports. It's the Lions Den on KCLC HD Through the Tower and on the Roar Network YouTube channel.
Alrighty, good evening, everybody. Welcome to the Lions Den. And today we have Ethan Blake here with us from the Lindenwood men's soccer team just to talk to us, answer a few questions to start the show. Ethan, how you doing today?
I'm doing pretty good.
All right, well, if you've never listened to the Lions Den before, here's what we're going to do. We got 10 to 15 minutes of an interview. Then we're going to go into every single Lindenwood sport that's going on right now, so all the different teams, break them down, give you our 3 stars of the week across all Lindenwood athletics, and then wrap things up by going around the OVC and just looking at what's going on across the conference, or for football, the Big South OVC. Had a class this week where they're like, we got to do an OVC show. Why is the Big South on there? And I'm like, guys, it's because they merged. They're their own thing now. But we're going to get into our interview, and yes, we do have a soundbite transition. I didn't get to use it last week. Let's see how it sounds.
It's time for the interview of the week.
All right, let's get into our interview of the week. We are with Ethan Blake. Yeah, we can't hear it in the studio. I know it's awkward.
Oh, fair enough.
When the mics are up, you can't hear anything underneath it. So I learned that last week.
Oh, there we go.
Yeah, we're getting better at this. So we're going to start off with an easy question here for you. And we talked a bit before the show about how you were mainly a soccer kid growing up. When did you first start playing, and what drew you to the sport of soccer?
I started playing when I was probably about 5 years old. My dad was always a big soccer coach, so he pretty well just got me started when I was younger, and then kind of went from there. You know, just fell in love with it pretty fast.
So you were the AMC Freshman of the Year at Columbia College and went to NAIA Final Four before coming to Lindenwood. How did you know that you were ready to go D1, and how did you end up being a Lion after all that?
Yeah, so I had no clue if I was ready to go D1. I just knew that I was ready for a challenge after 2 years at the NAIA level. I really loved it, loved Columbia, loved really everything about it. The decision to leave really had nothing to do with the school at all. It was more of just looking to get a new environment and to challenge myself both off the pitch and on it. And so, I was looking at a lot of different opportunities, a lot of different places at all levels, other NAIA schools, D2, D1s, all over the place. And kind of near the end of that search, I ended up having a buddy of mine who reached out to head coach here, Chris Birch, and he pretty well called me within like 30 minutes of that text message. And then, I don't know, I mean, we moved pretty quick. I think I committed within like 2-3 days.
Wow.
It was pretty quick.
So coming out of high school, were your highest offers essentially at the NAIA level and you had to work your way up, or did you get some higher level offers to begin with?
Yeah, so I came out in 21, right when COVID was hitting. So I had conversations with a lot of Division I institutions coming out of high school, but they all kind of shut down during that COVID period. So there wasn't a lot of opportunity there. There's a few schools that were interested, but the money kind of disappeared because they had guys that were able to come back with that COVID year. So ended up making the decision to play at the highest level I could that wasn't Division I, and Columbia College at the time was top 5 in the nation, I think, before I joined. So it was like an easy decision for me, and so just went with it.
Well, you said you wanted the challenge moving up to the Division I level. You felt like you were ready to do it. And let's be real, I think we all kind of think you are ready because the first 2 years you've made first team All-OVC, you've led your team in scoring. How were you able to adapt so quickly to the Division I game, and how different is the NAIA game versus Division I?
I wouldn't say I adapted very well at the start, to be honest. It was a big jump in just intensity and just the level of professionalism across the board. It was a lot harder, but I had a lot of habits in place from a young age, just in terms of how I reacted to challenges, and so that was probably the easiest way for me to adapt faster than maybe most people would, just because once things started getting hard, I just knew what I needed to do by default. I didn't have to, hem and haw around solutions. I just knew what I needed to do, and so it made things a little bit easier for me. I would say biggest difference would probably be just off the field and just the level of detail that goes into, scouting opponents, into preparation for games. There's just a lot more fine-tuning of the little things in the game rather than NAI just tends to focus a lot on the bigger picture items. And I think that's mainly just because, it's smaller institutions, smaller environments, your class sizes are smaller, everything's smaller. I just think they just put a little bit less emphasis on those little details. And be honest, too, at the NAI, there's a bigger level gap. Your top 10 teams in the country versus the bottom teams, there's a bigger gap, whereas at the Division I level, anyone could beat anyone on any given day, so you have to be just a little bit more prepared.
No, that honestly is an amazing assessment out of that. So, with you playing at both NAIA, and D1, and being in such a versatile sport as soccer, the world sport, I'm sure you've had plenty of teammates from all over, but specifically here in Lindenwood, you have players from 13 different countries on the team with you. What is it like being on a team and, having that group of people around you from so many different cultural backgrounds?
It's pretty amazing. It gives you the opportunity to get a little bit of insight on how other players grow up, how other players develop in their countries, the opportunities they may have, the opportunities that we have, maybe that they don't have access to. It's very cool to see that everyone's path is very different. I have guys, I've played on other teams, and I've played with guys from everywhere, I feel like. And everybody's story is just a little bit different. And I think that'd probably be the coolest thing about playing with guys from other countries.
Well, you talk about the different stories and perspectives of these people and their journeys to get to this level. What has been the most interesting thing you've learned or heard from some of these teammates?
I'd say, going back at kind of what I said, just what they had access to. A lot of guys, I've played with guys that were from very small countries. I've played with guys from massive countries. And just the opportunities they had at the younger levels in their academy days and stuff. Some of them have opportunities that maybe we don't have in the States, but I've played with a lot of guys who had opportunities, or very few opportunities compared to what we have. And I'd say that's probably the biggest thing, is just realizing how lucky a lot of us are here in the States and how many resources we have access to in just a small area. I mean, think about St. Louis, for example. Like, it's a big city, but you go to someplace in England, like, it's almost the same size if you think about it. Like, it's small and the city's huge. And so, like, the fact that you have such a big soccer city in the middle of Missouri, it's kind of cool to see that there's just so many different teams you can play on, where a lot of other places, there's not as much opportunity there.
And that kind of leads me to another question. You're from the area here. How, especially with St. Louis's rich history in soccer, how does it feel to be playing so close and pretty much in the city of St. Louis, being able to play such a historic game?
I mean, from a young age, like, I'm from Jefferson City, Missouri, and from a young age, you always heard about how big soccer was in St. Louis, and it wasn't the same way where I was from. Soccer was not the number one sport. And so you just heard about the culture and how big it was, and it was every player's desire to try to get out and try to see if they could play in St. Louis and enjoy just the opportunities that it had to offer. And so I would say it's pretty awesome to get to say that I got to experience that, because there's a lot of people from my hometown that wish they could just come to St. Louis and get to play the game in a city that loves it so much.
Well, you are in St. Louis, you're playing soccer, and you're finding some success right now, because the team is off to their best start since 2013. You guys are getting some national attention with receiving some votes in the coaches poll, the only team in the country with 7 wins currently. Where is the level of belief with this team that you guys can contend for the conference and maybe win a round or two in the tournament this year?
I think the belief is very high. I think the guys are bought in to not only what the coaching staff is asking of us, but also just the general culture that we've developed, and that some of us that have been here since The early days of Division I soccer, the culture, the framework that we've been laying down. A lot of guys are buying in, and we have a lot of new guys, but everybody kind of got used to the level, got used to each other really fast, and I think that obviously the success has just given guys just a little bit of an edge, a little bit of a confidence to realize that we could do something really special.
Yeah, I mean, it's really awesome seeing you guys off to this historic start. And I know even last week we talked about it, and we were giving you guys your flowers then. And there's no reason to stop now. But you guys do have SIUE coming up, and I know last year they were a little bit of a tougher opponent. So, what do you think? You and your guys' mentality is going to be going into a matchup against SIUE?
I think we will be dialed in. I think they will be dialed in as well. They know they're just over the river. It's always a competitive game, and maybe they have had our number the last couple times we faced them. And I think all the returners and the newcomers have kind of realized that this is the year to switch on and make something happen in this game. I think we're all really excited for it. Obviously, we take one game at a time. We have the game coming up on Friday, so that's our number one priority right now. But the moment that match is over, our eyes are set on getting a result in that game against SIUE.
And what about SIUE has made it such a difficult matchup over the last few meetings?
I'd say probably just experience. They have had a Division I program for longer, and they have had a lot of older individuals. And so when we were first starting out, we were a lot younger, had a lot of new players who had never played at the Division I level before. And so I think just trying to get used to that level, trying to compete with a team as big as SIUE was a challenge. But, now we've got older guys. It's obvious. It's out there. We've got older guys. We've got more experience at the level. And I think we have kind of evened the playing field. And I think we're all excited to compete and show what we can do.
Honestly, I cannot wait for that game. So with that coming up, and we've talked about how amazing you've been doing, but I feel like this roster is all around pretty well. I think you guys work very well as a team. But you personally, who do you feel like is the most underrated man on the roster?
Ooh, man, I don't know if I can even pick out one underrated man because, to be honest with you, we have guys who have all bought into their roles on the team, and there's really any given game, a guy could be called. He might not play 2-3 games, and then all of a sudden he gets called and he scores the game winner. We have a team that has the ability to do that has the ability for guys that might be considered underrated to end up being the stars at any given moment. So I wouldn't say I have one guy that's just the underrated guy on the team. I think everybody has just bought into their roles, and they're just running with it and showing that when you do that, you can have success.
All right. Well, we have one more fun question for you. Now, a lot of people that watch sports, at least here in the States, are not the most familiar, or at least they don't understand in depth the game of soccer. We all get it. You're trying to put the ball in the net. You understand maybe some basic formations and how it's played, but what is one thing you wish casual fans better understood about your sport?
How no two games will ever be perfectly the same. The game is always changing. There's not really any plays. You can have rotations, you can have set piece plays, you can have all that stuff. But it's very different from, football or basketball or any of those sports where you actually run plays. It is free-flowing, and it all relies on individual and team decision-making. And because it's so free-flowing, it makes it to where there's never a boring moment, whether you're a spectator or you're on the field, because just every game's different. You never know what you're going to have to react to, what you're going to have to do to not only get a victory, but also to just play to the best of your ability. All
right. Well, thank you so much for your time here today. We really appreciate it. And just keep doing what you do, man. Keep doing what you do. And
right.
Excited to see the rest of the season out of you guys. Sure. It's been off to one great start.
I will say this before you go. I work for Maine Media. I do a lot of replay work. You guys make my job really easy because there's some games, especially like the low-scoring ones, where it's like, man, how do we make a halftime highlight playlist? You guys give us plenty of material to work with, so keep doing that. Thank you so much for your time today.
For sure. Appreciate it.
Well, as they head out, we're going to move into our next segment as we're going to head into the Lions Den.
It's time to go inside the Lions Den and break down every current Lindenwood sports team.
All right, well, we're heading into the Lions Den. What does that mean? Well, it means that we're going to do a quick breakdown of all of the Lindenwood sports that are currently going on, give you guys our thoughts and opinions, and we got to start off with women's soccer. Look, they started the year. They were 3-0. Since then, 0-2-3. They've been struggling a little bit. Only 2 goals in their last 5. But this week, they played against a really solid Indiana State team and tied them 0-0. Still struggling to score, but that Indiana State team was 3-0-1 against the OVC coming into that game, which means against our peers and the teams in our conference, this team was beating them. And we were able to get a tie out of it.
No, and I mean, I think that if anything that should show a little bit of hope towards the fan base of, hey, look, we're having a little bit of struggles here. We're having a little bit of a slow bit to the season. But we're still here. We're still competitive. We can still fight. Even with the best of the best, we can still, hold our ground. And we may not get the win, but at least we'll get the draw. At least we'll take it to where there's no loss on the board. It's not a win for them just as much as it's not a win for us, but you just keep going. So honestly, it might be a slow little bit of the season. I don't think I honestly think that just happens from time to time. So I think they're still in a really good position, and especially being able to tie a team that is essentially bullying the OVC to be one of those teams that is like, you're not going to bully us, shows a lot of this Lindenwood team.
And the only other team Indiana State was able to tie this year was Eastern Illinois. So keep a lookout for them because, we're both getting ties. That could say something there.
They're still sitting at the top, I believe.
So, final thoughts on this one. Look, we got conference play coming up. September 21st, we're going to be up against SEMO. The coach likes where we're at. I know that we've been a little bit, not even harsh, but just like talking about, hey, the team's been struggling a bit. He liked their performance here. He's confident in them. And I said it last show. Once one of the top goal scorers puts one in the back of the net, you're going to see everyone else around him start to do it. It's like watching hockey. You throw a billion shots on net and the goaltender stands on his head. You're like, dude, what do I got to do? Your confidence goes in the bin. You get one to go in, and all of a sudden, they're going to come in droves.
Everyone's going to rally behind you, and you're just going to go all get it done. So, no, I think SEMO is going to be a good matchup for them. And just like their coach, I have faith.
All right.
I have faith. Going into men's soccer, though, we were third in the preseason poll. Mind you, we just had Ethan in here. Third in the preseason poll. Pause for dramatic effect. We are now 7-0. That is right. Your Lindenwood Lions are undefeated. Phenomenal. Just phenomenal. They have also outscored their opponents 23-4 so far. Non-conference, but still 23-4 soccer. That's insane.
That's a football. Well, that'd be scoregami for football.
That would be scoregami for football.
You need the 2 safeties there, but that's like a football score almost.
That is almost a football score. The only team nationally, we did say this during the interview, but repeat for dramatic effect again, only team nationally to have 7 wins and 1 of 3 unbeatens. That means in all of college soccer, there are only 3 teams that are unbeaten right now, and one of them is your Lindenwood Lions. The other 2 are Delaware and Utah Valley. I have an unrealistic amount of faith in this team to just completely go undefeated. I am in that headspace, dare I say almost a Dallas Cowboys headspace of, we're going to win it all. But I think it's valid. 7-0. to start the season. I'm being compared to some of those bigger schools and even nationally being recognized like that. It's hard not to have that sort of mentality because that's phenomenal. That is historical. I don't know. What are your thoughts on that?
Okay, so I'll say this. We're going to go over the last 2 games here. I wanted to talk about them, and then I have some finishing thoughts about the program as a whole. All right?
Go for it.
So last week, we were on our show talking about upcoming games, and that night, we were playing against a D3 school in Westminster. We're all sitting here thinking, man, we took care of business the last time we played them. We should blow them out. It's 1-0 at halftime when their goalie's standing on his head, and we're like, all right, guys, second half's going to have to be a big one here. Hey, other team just subbed out their goalie. They're putting another guy in, and that guy was playing great. So we're like, they're throwing in the towel. And then they scored 2 straight on us. A D3 school was winning that game. And our boys came back, despite them not playing their best game and not having their best stuff, came back, scored 2 unanswered, took care of business.
Oh, yeah.
Their next game against Lemoyne, a struggling team, did not make the same mistake. They adjusted, said, I don't care if it's a trap game. I don't care if this team's maybe not on our level. They went out there from start to finish, even with the other team fouling the crap out of them all the cramps and all the heat. 2-0 win. That is what you like to see. You had a rough game where maybe the coach didn't like what he saw, where the players got frustrated because they couldn't get the looks they wanted. In the next game, they came out and executed a really solid game plan, didn't get away from it, and took care of business against a smaller school. And that is encouraging.
Oh, yeah.
I think that this university has found the right head coach for this program, the right head of it. You're recruiting well. You're finding people from abroad to get onto your team that have a lot of talent. And when you can't find someone abroad, you just so happen to be in the soccer capital of this country. So if I'm Lindenwood right now, I look at this men's soccer team and say, hey, I know other schools are really good at hockey, basketball, football. Maybe soccer is the sport for this university that they could put more funding into and say, hey, look, this is the reason why you come. This is the thing that we have all of our students at. This is our big game. That would take a lot because, let's be real, we don't have a lot of student support right now, and we need to work on that. It's not our fault. I mean, we're going to games.
Hey.
But that could be something for the university that I'm throwing out there saying, that team right there, they're marketable. They're winning a lot of games. They got the right man at the top. That could be a place for Lindenwood to really grow their athletics.
And, I mean, even with them being nationally recognized with not having that sort of level of support, I should say, that's got to say something. Like, that's got to say, hey, this team is stepping up with having less, and they are still showing that they are one of the top dogs in all of soccer.
Hang on. When we say having less, we do not mean anything bad about that. We just mean like, the fan support. Like the average student isn't walking around campus talking about the soccer team.
Which they should be.
That's something that I think we could try to work on. And, we post this. We try to give exposure to all the different sports. That's partially our job, too. And I like what you're saying. Maybe we don't have the fan support, but if we work on it, it could be something special and create some really cool college soccer environments here.
Oh, yeah, because, well, and like you said, we're in the soccer capital of the United States. St. Louis City Soccer Club, they get support nonstop. Like, the drive for soccer is there. I think we just need to get a little bit more students in those stands and showing the guys that, hey, we're here, we support you, we want you guys here, and we want to see you dominate not just the OVC, but the entire nation abroad. So, Lindenwood students, y'all need to get out there. It's a great time, great games. And like Ethan said, I mean, no 2 games are the same. It's constantly changing, and I think I've had more fun watching soccer than I have football more times. Now, that's both at professional level and collegiate level, but I also enjoy watching Lindenwood Lions football too, so that's neither here nor there.
Well, speaking of Lindenwood Lions football, your Lindenwood Lions might have heard what we said on the show last week, because this week they came out after a rough start in their game and was like, remember what those guys said on the Lions Den last week? We got to prove them wrong, Down 21-0 in the first half, score 35 unanswered points, and quarterback Nate Glantz, I said, hey, he needs to step up. Needs to take his game to the next level. How about 4 total TDs on the day? How about being efficient, making the right reads, finding open receivers, not forcing the ball? That is big. Those are steps we wanted to see, and that is why we won a football game on Saturday.
And mind you, Nate Glantz, 3 rushing touchdowns and his 1 passing touchdown. You remember last week, the star player Rico Bond? Guess what? He's the one that caught the receiving touchdown from Nate Glantz. These things just come full circle, right? But 35 unanswered. And, I mean, finally, Charleston South was able to put 1 up before the end of the game, but Lindenwood just came out, said, you know what? You had your fun in the first half. We're going to sit you down real quick and make you understand why we're here. It was absolutely phenomenal to watch, and highly recommend going to the home opener this weekend, people. Stony Brook, they're playing at 6 p.m. on Saturday. Highly recommend going to the home opener to see those guys and support your Lindenwood Lions.
So you have to. I mean, after that win, because you start off the year 0-2. In the first game of the year, we didn't talk about it much last show. It's a game you probably should have had. The next week, you go up against an FBS opponent, and it's one where you really battled your butt off, but your offense didn't give you enough. This week, everybody chipped in. You got down big early, but everyone adjusted. And it was the little things in this game, too. I know on the final drive that CSO scored on, there was a play, and we're just trying to eat clock here. That was the whole point of that drive for us. Get that clock down as low as we can. They sub late. Well, what does our coach do? Man, they kind of subbed a little late. Hey, subs, how about you walk out there really slowly so they can't snap the football and have to take a delay of game? It's stuff like that. Oh, yeah. The small things that the coaching staff did in that game to make adjustments to put the team on the right track. And at the very end, I was listening on the radio because I was driving. I heard the onside kick, and I heard that, oh no, Charleston got it. Well, one of their guys stuck a hand up and tipped it. So we were able to escape the onside kick and finish off the football game. We are now 1-2 and lead the OVC because we are the only conference game to be played so far.
Let's go. Lindenwood on top. On top. So, we've covered football. We've covered soccer. How about we switch it up a little bit? Let's talk about some women's volleyball. They haven't played since the last show, but they do have Virginia Tech to lean on for the season. And this weekend, they face both East Texas A&M and Iowa. How you liking those matchups?
They're testers, but early in the season, you mentioned the Virginia Tech game. The Virginia Tech game, you're down 0-2, so 2-0. You're struggling, and we had Autumn on the show last week, and they came together and said, hey, we got nothing to lose. We're going to go ball out on their court, get a W.
Yep.
For the rest of the season now, every match that you're in, you can say, hey, look what we did earlier this year against a Power 4 school. We got down. We were not playing our best, and we were able to come out with a victory.
Oh, yeah.
So that gives something for the coach to use, and all the young players who are getting their start can say, hey, look what we are capable of. So that was, I know there's not a lot of news here. We're just trying to stretch this one out for women's volleyball, but that is something that's really important to keep an eye on, is this team was really good when they were down last year, and now they know for sure this year, this is something that we can do. We're capable of winning games that are tough.
Oh, yeah. But even then, I mean, you got to think. When we had Autumn last week, she said a lot of those new players have bought into trying to learn this team and trying to build that culture back up from what they had last year where they were national champions.
OVC
championship. My bad.
You're
OVC
good.
champions. Thank you for correction. Now, I mean, yeah, you're going to have a little bit of a reset. But even with a reset, this team is playing good. They've bought into the culture. They've bought into each other. And they want to continue that going through the rest of the season. So I don't see any reason to worry going into this weekend, really. I think, especially with that comeback in Virginia Tech game, I think they have the right mentality going forward into this weekend of, hey, we did it once, we can do it again. We're young, we're hungry, we want this more than them. So I don't think there's any reason to worry about women's volleyball. I think they're just in that nice sweet spot of we're gonna do good. We're gonna do great, even.
Yep, you just got to lean on the returners that have come back. They got to step up, play some good volleyball, and you already had a freshman win OVC Freshman of the Week one time this year. That's a good sign when you got new people coming in. But we are going to move into our 3 stars of the week, and you're going to get us started here in a moment.
It's time for the 3 stars of the week.
Alrighty, first star of the week is going to be Carolyn Ritter from the women's soccer team. She is the goalie. She's been one of the best goalies in the OVC since last season. And just recently, her 8 saves helped secure a tie against Indiana State. And that was just this week.
And in that game, she saved their butts at the end. Indiana State was pushing hard late in that match. 2 incredible saves to keep them in it. And that is a luxury to have at this level. Finding good goaltenders is something that even big-time, like Premier League level teams struggle with. So the fact that Lindenwood on both the men's and the women's sides don't have to worry about what's in net behind them, that is good for the team, and that allows the defense to not have to play so tight. They can play a little loose. So shout out Caroline Ritter. She is our 3rd star of the week. And our 2nd star of the week, look, we like to usually use athletes, but Chris Birch, the soccer of your men's soccer team here, the head coach, whatever I just said, I don't know. The coach of the men's soccer team.
There we go.
Man, okay. Anyways, look, we just had Ethan Blake in here. They're 7-0 for a reason. And it's not just that they're 7-0, but they're out here running their starters into the ground and just beating up on non-cons. He's keeping the team rested. He's subbing guys in and out, and he has the whole team bought in, and you're getting production from guys that you didn't expect before the season. So for me, this team looks well prepared, really motivated every time they go out there, and no matter what the other team throws at them, they're able to answer back. Against St. Thomas, you got down early. You came back and scored 5 unanswered. Against Westminster, you're working on things. It's a trap game. You don't look all that good. You still win the game. And this week, to start the game against the Dolphins, I'm trying to blank, the Lemoyne Dolphins, yeah. The school named with the Dolphins, but you're not on the coast. Anyways,
different rand.
You're playing against them, and immediately out of the gate in that game, they're just rushing at you full charge. I mean, they're fouling everybody. And it's hot, and it's nasty, and you got the job done. So I give big credit to Chris Birch. He's assembled a great roster, and he has them playing great soccer right now.
Phenomenal head coach. And, I mean, obviously when Ethan was in here, you can see that even he was bought into the team. He talked about how the rest of the team was bought in. And I know you hit on that right at the start, but I mean, you cannot overstress that enough. That you have to have your players see your vision to actually get it done. And the fact that he's been able to do that consistently and get the wins, even through the muggy weather of Missouri right now, because, that's just on a whole nother level. So, very happy that we have him on our side. And then our number 1 star of the week, it comes from a linebacker here from Lindenwood, and that is Jacob Waller. For the 2nd straight week, a Lindenwood football player has earned OVC Big South Defensive Player of the Week honors. The Bellevue, Iowa native tallied a career-high 17 tackles in their win over Charleston South, including 13 solo stops just by Mr. Waller, and 1.5 tackles for loss. That stat line is insane for a linebacker. That's insane.
And you've needed people to step up on this defense.
Oh, yeah.
And you got a decent performance from the big group, but you had a guy who went above and beyond this week. And we need to start seeing more of that. The defensive line for this team right now this year, they gave up a lot of rush yards in the first few games. They are not getting pressure on the quarterback, but you have a guy who's now tackling people behind the line of scrimmage, and anyone that comes his way, he's putting them on the ground.
Oh, yeah.
That is what you like to have. That's an anchor on your defense, someone you can have faith in every week. That is something this team has needed. He's providing now, and he's getting recognized for it as he is our 1st star of the week. And when we come right back out, it's going to be the OVC rundown.
It's time for the latest standings and updates from around the OVC.
Alrighty, so we are going to start with women's soccer for the OVC conference rundown. Your Lindenwood Lions are still sitting at the top of the conference with a 3-2-3 record, as well as being the only OVC team to sit at above a 500 for the season currently. So although they have had their struggles recently, they are still technically the only team in the OVC with a winning record. Got to take everything with a grain of salt. The three highlight players from this conference, though, are Maria Schuler on the offense from Little Rock with 2 goals and an assist in her game. On defense, it's Parker Jelinas from UT Martin, Erdhanan with blocking 14 shots on target. And finally, with the goalkeeper nod, Mac Titus, also out of UT Martin, played all 180 minutes this week in goal, in which she saved 7 shots in both games. 180 minutes, 7 shots. That's insane. Definitely deserves that nod. 2 Lindenwood players were nominated, though, this week, and that was Jessica Dodd on the defense and Carolyn Ritter as the goalkeeper. So, continuing on to men's soccer. Lindenwood does sit at the top of the conference at 7-0, with the closest opponent in the conference being Liberty, who sits at 4-0-2. 4 wins compared to our 7.
Kind of nice.
Get those numbers
Very
up.
nice.
Or don't. Sit at the bottom. We need this.
Yeah, we do. We do.
We want this and need this more than y'all do. Go ahead and stay at the bottom there. Bottom, second place. Either way, the notable players across the league with the men's is on the offense. We have Juan Monreal out of UIW, scored a game-tying and assisted the game-winning goal against their in-state rival of UTRGV. We're just going to go with the acronym from now.
Big acronym.
On the defense, Carlos Trott from Liberty takes the honor with only allowing 1 goal in 2 matches on the defense. That's phenomenal. Then in goalkeeper, it is Alejandro De La Torre, who is also out of UIW, who made 8 saves in 1 game until a penalty kick in the 79th minute had them tied. So, phenomenal performance out of goalkeeper. That is amazing. And the last little bit to cap off the men's soccer is UIW knocks off a ranked team, number 18 SMU, with a score of 2-1. Now, while that may not sound too impressive, that is phenomenal. Having a lower conference, quote-unquote lower conference, knock off a ranked team, especially this early into the season, insane, astronomical. That is phenomenal.
Well, what I was going to say on that one is, look, you have Lindenwood starting to get some coaches' poll votes. SIUE is still SIUE. Liberty's a solid school. Incarnate Word's good at basically everything they do. You're starting to see some teams in the OVC start to evolve, and you took down an ACC foe in SMU. That is very impressive to take down any ranked opponent, but especially one from a bigger conference that gets that ranking not from just straight up being one of the top teams, like talent-wise. It's just like, hey, you're in a big conference, you're winning games, you're going to get ranked. And OVC said, hang on. No, our schools need to be the ones getting some votes. So I like that, even though it is a rival in the conference.
Oh, yeah.
You want to do football? I got football.
I will continue with football. So Lindenwood technically does sit at the top of the OVC Big South with a record of 1-2 with a 35-28 win over in-conference opponent of Charleston South. That's right. Lindenwood is on top with that in-conference win. So we're looking right at that. Tennessee Tech, however, is still undefeated at 3-0 with their next matchup being against their first in-conference opponent in Tennessee State. So we very quickly can see a change to where Lindenwood might be number 2 after the weekend. Not because they'll lose. I have utmost confidence that Lindenwood is going to take the win this weekend, especially being a home game. They've been on the road. They're hungry. They want it. I think Lindenwood's going to walk away with the win. However, I think Tennessee Tech is going to be Tennessee State, and that's going to be a 1-0 in the conference, so they might take the 1 spot. We'll get it back eventually. Don't worry. We'll get it back.
There's some promises you're making there.
We'll get it back. Don't you worry about it. We'll get it back. The big highlight player, though, out of the entire OVC is going to be Nate Glantz out of Lindenwood. I mean, you rally the Lions back after being down 3 touchdowns, and you yourself get them 3 rushing and a passing touchdown. I mean, it's hard not to give the man his flowers. It's hard not to give him his flowers. That is such an impressive performance from anybody. 4 touchdowns in total. So yeah, that's going to be the best player coming out of the OVC for football. Moving to women's volleyball, Eastern Illinois is still sitting atop the conference, but now at 6-2. They lost their last 2 games since we talked last, so they are no longer undefeated, but still at the top of the conference. Players of the week for women's volleyball are M.E. Hargan out of Moorhead State. She's the offensive player this week. She helped lead her team to a 6-1 victory this week. That's insane. Defensive, Aridna Perelis?
Let me see that.
Eastern Illinois player. She's your defensive player. And then Asa Thomas out of Southern Indiana. She's going to be your co-setter, along with Ava Peters out of UT Martin.
Now, I ain't going to lie to you guys at home. Volleyball, we're still trying to figure it out. So we will learn as we go, but this should be a fun year for all the sports that are going on right now. And the OVC, I understand that Lindenwood is not considered a contender yet there, but just looking at the other schools, I mean, you got the Battle of Tennessee this week with Tennessee Tech, Tennessee State. That's going to be really, really fun. And, you know, we got a non-con this week, Stony Brook. Just go out there, have fun, and don't leave at halftime. Last year against SEMO, I get it was pouring rain and nobody wanted to be there. But the fact is, when you're beating one of the top teams in the FCS, the fans got to stay.
Oh, yeah.
So I'm challenging everybody that listens to this. If you're going to that game, stick it out all the way to the end because this team can work magic, and you saw it this week. If that would have happened at home, and we would have been down 21-0, I feel like the students would have started to leave and they would have missed that great ending. So just have some patience and get out there, be loud for our Lions.
Have faith. You are here at Lindenwood. Have faith in your teams that they are going to deliver you the product that they promise.
All right, well, that is all for this episode of The Lions Den. Next week, we'll have another athlete on, and, you know, we'll try to clean some stuff up. We're getting started here. It's only episode 2, and we got the rest of the semester, maybe the rest of the year, to start figuring some things out for us on this show. But, yeah, thank you to everybody who tuned in. This has been The Lions Den on the Tower.
Thank you for listening to The Lions Den. We're on air every Tuesday at 6 p.m. right here on the Tower, and all recordings are on the Roar Network YouTube channel. Have a great rest of your evening, and go Lions!